Oh, hello. I am Sierra Artiaga. This is my action research for the May, the spring of 2023. Here's my action research project, so I like to talk about it. Um, Oops, can I put it aside? There we go. Okay, so my school setting right now, I'm at Vista Magnet Middle School. I am teaching sixth grade. The school is located in Vista, California, which is North County of San Diego. It is an IB school, so an International Baccalaureate, which is a new setting for me. They actually have their own curriculum that they must follow that aligns with the California state standards. So it has been a unique experience for me from any other public school. This is a magnet school, so it's been different. There's roughly 850 students for the total school populations. It's sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. And the general population is 70% Latino, 20% white, and 10% other. My phase one and two, essentially, I provided an informal assessment, and they have this every day. It is their guiding question, so they are required to write and answer the question, answer the following guiding question, and they have 6 minutes to complete this. After we do this, we discuss as a class. So this is an example they were presented with earlier in the week. Their guiding question was, how many total cubes are needed to fill this shape? What else do you notice about this shape? And so essentially these questions are to guide them into the topic that we're going to be discussing about that day. So essentially we're talking about volume. They don't know that yet, but that's essentially the topic we're going to discuss with the California State Standard. We provided a word bank for them, so they had just learned about area and surface area. So some vocabulary they may be familiar with would be height, length, width, base area, and even volume, as they might have heard in previous classes from the previous year. What I noticed was that about 50% of the students really put the effort of writing down the question. Like I said, it's not necessarily this specific question, but there's a different guiding question for every single day. And what they're supposed to do is that they're supposed to write down the actual question that's presented and write down their answer independently. And so about half the students actually do that, and I feel like it's a bit mundane. Students don't really want to do it because it's something they always do and they think it's boring. But that's something that we'll get more into later. Um, I also noticed that 75% of the students do write down their answer. So they might not want to write down the question, maybe because the question's too long or they just don't really want to. But 75% do put down the answer. And something that I noticed, that's just in my opinion, I noticed that about 25% of the students' handwriting is illegible. Like it's really hard for me to read it. And I don't know if that's like something um, that is important at sixth grade, or maybe it's just like something I'm nitpicking at. But I do notice it's something noticeable to me, just because they do focus on a lot of writing in the curriculum for IB, and so this is something that I found out. And so again, during this process, students are asking, do I have to write down the question? If I know the answer, do I have to write it down? Why do I even have to write this? And essentially, it kind of comes to my research question, but it just seems that students aren't engaged or they're just bored, and so that's essentially what um, what I'm finding out during this phase. Yeah, to conclude, right, the guiding questions are first activity of the day. Based on evidence, it seems that students are not engaged or are excited about learning math. They do not want to write and they don't want to participate due to the routine, and they're just bored. And so that's my research question today. Is essentially, how do I or how can we make math more engaging for students? And I actually just went to a presentation just the other day that kind of talked about, five key components to really get students to engage in math. And we've talked about during this process how there's a gap for students to overcome when we start talking about math and when math starts becoming more rigorous and less exciting. And so essentially during this phase three, I want to implement the five strategies to engage in classroom where I overheard. So essentially, the first thing we have to do is provide good problems for our students. We have to make sure that students are relating to the problem and it's not so procedural where I'm just doing this step to do that step and then I get my answer. We want students to be problem solvers. They want to solve and they want to learn and they want to think. And when you provide, very procedural and simple math problems, it just essentially not good problems at all. It becomes boring and students don't like that. We want to close that gap where we have students that are the gap's not so far where they're not going to enjoy it, but it's not too easy and students aren't feeling challenged. So we want to make sure we provide good problems. Secondly, we want to provide debate. Essentially, we want students to talk about different ideas and different methods to coming to a solution. It's healthy debate where we have students providing their perspectives and essentially giving each other new ideas from one another. So we think debate is very important. Lastly, surprise. As I said before, the guiding question is something that can be useful. It has students on a routine, but that routine can get very boring, especially at this point of the year. With sixth graders, we're about 4 weeks away from the end of the school year, and they're definitely pretty bored, and we can feel it. But having some surprise, having something different in the classroom every once in a while provides that excitement, and it provides students, with some real life experience that there's going to be surprises in life and that math can be fun. Essentially, the big thing we really want to get at is curiosity. We want students to be curious. We don't want students to think, oh, math is this, math is that. We want students to really be engaged and essentially think more than what math may appear to be. We want them to think of new ideas. Think, how can I solve this? How can I do that? How can I be a better critical thinker? By being curious, because being curious is what we want students to be. We want students to know and reach and go above and beyond. And the last thing is we want students to be able to predict. And this all comes with the four other topics as stated, these strategies. We want students to be able to predict outcomes, to be, be very aware of their critical skills and start predicting things that will happen in the future, what the tendencies they see. And these are all just skills that can be implemented with these following strategies. So that's all we're looking for. Through my data analysis and reflection, essentially the data when I did this in the classroom, I like I said, I saw this the other day, but I was able to provide some of these strategies in the classroom without even knowing it over this past course or over the past semester. The data shows that students like to foster curiosity depending on the spread of the gap. So I think if it's a topic in an activity that's somewhat engaging and new to the students, they like to really think and they like to challenge themselves. Like I said, depending on the spread of the gap, if it's too hard, students don't enjoy it because they don't get it. But if it's in the right spot where they're like, okay, I know I have some prior knowledge and I can reach this, then they like to be challenged and they like to really be curious. The second thing I found was that students do like to be engaged in activities and have fun. I have provided activities in the classroom through my CT where we see students become really engaged, whether it's through a Desmos activity online or whether through it's a hands-on experience with, with measuring tape. Students like to do new things and they like to be engaged, and that's how they learn the most. And essentially the last thing that kind of ties in with the second topic is that students, they do like to learn. Students want to learn, they want to be challenged, but like if these all go together, they have to be challenged in a healthy way where the gap is not too big. So essentially that's my action research project. Thank you for listening and thank you.